Good morning, Devils fans. Given that there's no on ice practice today and we've kind of already gone over lines with no new information to really go off of, want to take an aside to do a bit of a more fun episode as I haven't really talked about our big boys in a while. Through preseason, I've basically focused on all the fringe guys, Holtz, obviously, Nemec, and the legs. So instead, I want to take today's video to go over why I think a New Jersey Devil will win every single individual award by the end of the regular season, at least the big major ones. I'm probably not going to go too much into the community impact awards, as obviously those are a bit harder to judge. And it's just, we have maybe a couple guys at best that are knowingly involved in the community. So, yeah, going to focus on the big ones. So, from the top, I'm going to go with the most obvious choice, the big bad, the Hart Memorial Trophy. Think it's very obvious who I am going to pick here with Jack Hughes. There was a recent article from The Athletic talking about who do you think has the best chance at winning. Obviously, McDavid was the overwhelming favorite, and if I were to bet, I think that's a pretty good one. But with second place, there was Jack Hughes. Argument being maybe a bit of voter fatigue from McDavid, maybe he spreads the wealth out a bit more on the scoring with the Oilers being an even better roster than they were last year and doesn't hit quite the highs that he had this previous season, and that Jack takes that next step. Now, I do think it will likely take Jack like a 120-point season to put himself in that conversation to steal it away from McDavid, but it's not that far-fetched that he could do it. I think he could. I don't know how likely it is he is to hit 120 points, but obviously, if there was anyone on this team that was going to win the Hart, it's going to be Jack. It would be an exemplary season for him. He would probably have to play all 82 games, going close to, it'd have to be over a point per game. Obviously, probably point and a half per game, and would just have to really be dragging the Devils along. We probably likely wouldn't have to have another 100-point player, even though McDavid's done that with Draisaitl. But yeah, no surprises here. Jack for Hart would need a crazy season, but it's not that crazy of a thought, especially if, there wasn't a guy named McDavid in the league. Next up is the other obvious one, and that is going to be the Selke Trophy. Nico came in second last year to the guy that has been the perennial winner, and Bergeron, who has now retired. All across media, Nico is the favorite, so I'm going to go slightly off the beaten path here and actually argue why I think Nico will actually have a harder argument this year than he did last year for it, but will still end up winning. Biggest reason for that is basically what Lindy has said he's looking to do with our penalty kill units, and that is give Nico less time on the penalty kill. I know something voters look at is obviously points, how much PK time you take, face-offs, defensive zone starts, and matchup competition. Are you playing against, the top guys on the other team as well? And if Nico takes a step back in his PK playing time, should help his point generation, obviously. But maybe the voters will look at that as a ding against him for the Selke Trophy specifically. Now, he is still the odds-on favorite, it would seem. I've been saying he should be a Selke candidate for quite some time now. It's basically been a talking point within the Devils community since his rookie year. So nothing too crazy here. He is the favorite amongst the entire NHL community, so it makes sense why he is the pick here for us. So don't want to spend too much time on that. Next up, I'm going with the Rocket Richard. Jack, I think, would be an easy pick here, but I'm going to go with Timo Meier as our Rocket Richard winner. How likely is that? We'll see, especially given how much scoring talent there is on this team. He doesn't have to carry the load like some other guys do on other teams that end up winning this. But that being said, he's finally playing on a line that's going to absolutely feed him pucks. Just a team that should dominate in the offensive zone. He should have a career year in scoring. Now, is that going to mean he is going to put up a Rocket Richard season? Probably going to be very tough considering the other top goal scorers in this league and how much more they just dominate the puck with dominate the percentage of possession that they have for their team as compared to what Timo will have here. But if I had to pick someone on this team to do it, I'm going with Timo over Jack. I think Jack is actually going to end up scoring a few less goals this year, as I've discussed in my point prediction video, but will have a lot more assists just based off of his line mates, his usage, and all of that. He's not going to have Holla missing the net for half the year. Instead, he'll have Toffoli and Bratt putting it in. And while I don't think it's going to take too much away from his goal scoring, I think he's still going to be an absolute demon there. I think he takes a slight step back, not needing to be that guy on his line as much. and then just passes he is making going in more often. So just less opportunity for him to score, if that makes sense. So yeah, Timo, power play time, going to be the trigger man on his line, especially if Mercer stays up there as compared to Holt. And I just think if he's really popping off this year, he would be the top goal scorer for this team, and thus my pick for a Devil to win the Rocket Richard. Next, I'm going to go with the Norris. So easy pick here, going to be Dougie. Had a career year last year. I think the split squad power play actually will hurt his chances here. So if the Devils end up going with the, in my opinion, what they should do, fully stacked top unit, Dougie gets the majority of that time. Luke, who I'll talk about here in a moment, falls to that second unit with slightly less power play time. And so Dougie puts up another career year, outdoing what he did last year. The power play is just firing on even more cylinders than it did last season, where it was kind of middle of the road, and that's where Dougie really cooked. So if he puts up the same 5-on-5 numbers and gets a bump from the power play, I think he's absolutely in that conversation. Makar is obviously going to be the odds-on favorite if he plays all season, but Dougie, I think, could be right there nipping at his heels for this as well. Talking about Luke, going into the Calder, Luke would be the obvious choice here for us. I've said he's going to make the team outright more than Nemec will. And so Luke being on that second power play, if it actually does do a more even split time and that unit does start more like it did in the preseason with Jack, I could actually see Luke having a legitimate argument, unless, the obvious choice in Bedard is probably going to pop off, but he has a much worse team he's playing on. So if Luke is truly getting a fairly good split of power play time and produces decently enough at 5-on-5, he should be in that conversation. I said it all offseason. I thought Luke was good enough to challenge Bedard for it, but what was going to hold him back was not being a top unit, top power play guy like other rookie defensemen that have won this in the past have been. But if he gets the good power play time and he bumps himself up the lineup, which right now he looks to be a pretty mainstay bottom pair guy, so I think that will hurt him. But maybe easier competition, he can kind of feast off of that. He at least should have a argument's chance of getting that over Bedard, but there's also going to be guys like Cooley and Fantilli in there. This is a stacked rookie class this year, probably the best in a long, long time. Hard to name one off the top of my head who is better. It's going to be a crazy Calder race, but Bedard is the obvious favorite. Luke gets the power play time, can definitely challenge for it. Jack Adams, it's got to be rough. Now, he should have won it last year. Obviously, kind of hard to beat out the guy that just had a record-setting regular season in NHL history. But if voters keep in mind what Ruff did last season, taking one of the worst records to one of the best records, I think what he would need this year to beat out who is probably the odds-on favorite right now in Rod Brind'Amour with Carolina, I think we would have to win the President's Trophy. But not only that, I think we would have to at least win the season series against Carolina, if not outright beat them in basically every game, maybe only dropping one. My thoughts for that is Rod is, probably next in line to win this trophy. If Carolina does what everyone expects them to do, outside of another record-setting season by another team, he's probably, the guy that is going to end up winning it. So for Lindy to get the nod instead, we would have to obviously finish ahead of Carolina. Probably have to just win the President's Trophy outright, because I think over in Edmonton, they're going to have a good shot at it as well for their coach. And we could still win the President's Trophy, but if Carolina beats us in the season series, I can still see voters taking that into consideration to still just go with the preconceived notion of Rod the Bod. So, yeah, that's my criteria for Lindy, President's Trophy, and season series over Carolina. Next is going to be the Ted Lindsay. I think that's just Connor McDavid's. Jack is the obvious choice here, but I think no matter if Jack is going to win the Hart, maybe he has to have a better point season than McDavid. I don't see that happening. I mean, I'm trying to do an episode where I'm arguing for every Devil here, but I outside of McDavid getting hurt, if McDavid gets hurt, Jack can absolutely be in the race for the Ted Lindsay putting up the most points in the league. Maybe, sure, yeah. Jack goes off 2 points per game, 164 point season. That's where he's gonna do it. Vezina, I'm gonna go with. Oh boy. Obviously, it's going to be between Schmid and Vitek. I think either would have a very hard argument for it, just given that they are very likely going to split time. Now, Ulmark won it last year with, I think, one of the least game played for winning a Vezina, but he put up an insane stat line. So obviously we need at least that while having a record-setting season for the team as well. But really, I think it's going to go to a goalie that takes the lion's share of starts, which is usually what happens. But I'll say VTech. I say VTech holds and dominates the net and actually ends up playing a lion's share. Has himself a really good season, and so that would be my argument for how a Devils goalie wins the Vezina. Instead of it going split, one of the guys has to take the reins, play a majority, put up a crazy stat line, and we finish top of the league, if not at the very top. So I think that's going to be one of the harder ones as well, but everyone says goaltending is our one weak point, really, with a younger defense. So with the younger defense, if our goalies end up standing on their heads, they can at least put themselves in the conversation there. Mark Messier, Nico, I would hate for any Devil to have to win this trophy anyway, but if it's going to be someone, Nico, he's the captain. We do a crazy season. He's also off ice, impactful in the community. Sure, not going to spend too much time on that one. Jim Gregory, GM of the Year award. I mean, it's got to be Fitz, right? Should have won it last year. I think he should be the favorite this year. Regardless, I think we could have a fairly good season, just, top-ish of the league, maybe top 5, even taking a step back from top 3, and I think he should still be a favorite to win this one. I don't think there's anything crazy in regards to that at all. So that's really the big ones. I don't really want to focus on the community ones, like I said. I think there are legitimate cases for all of these to come true, although, like I said, some of them are definitely going to be stretches. Just given the makeup of our team and the other guys that are out there in the league, it's just kind of hard when we're going to be fairly easily rolling lines and other guys are going to get, 20, 21, 22 plus minutes a night. And it makes their argument for some trophies a lot easier. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. Did I pick a Devil for some trophy that you wouldn't? Jack over Timo for the Rocket Richard, especially if he's going to win the Lindsay and the Hart. I can see it. Do you think Schmid is going to steal the net from VTech and take that lion's share of starts and he's our Vezina favorite? Anything else with those? Or am I absolutely off my rocker? I should have not even thought of doing this because there's no chance Devils are going to win most of these awards. Oh, last one. Lady Bing, Jack, runner-up last year. He never takes penalties. I think he's getting a bit of a reputation with some of the refs for arguing with some of their calls, though, so we'll see if he continues to get nods there. But yeah, almost forgot that one. So yeah, that'll do it. It's a holiday. I go back to work tomorrow, unfortunately, so I'll probably be very busy with that one. But hey, hockey starts tomorrow. I don't know how much I'm going to talk about it for tomorrow's episode, but there's actual NHL regular season games tomorrow. Going to try and keep this pretty much always all Devils, but might not be able to help myself from talking a little bit about the start of the season. And then we finally get our go just a couple days later. That's going to do it, y'all. I will see you all tomorrow morning, as always, and forever. Let's go, Devils.